All right, what's going on, boys? Welcome in. First episode of the year. Take it to the bank. Best NASCAR podcast you'll ever see in your life. I got my guy Reed Cooper with me as always. Coop, what's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Glad to be back with you. When you invited me back to the backstage and I saw you, I was like, man, you know, uh, you've lost a lot of weight. Looking good.
I'm working on it.
Good.
Slowly, but
Good.
I'm getting there.
Excellent.
I'm waking up early, but I'm still eating late, man. I'm still eating way too late, but
Well, are you going to bed at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning still?
yeah, I am.
Uh,
For those that don't know, my name is Jay Paglia. I bet on sports for a living. Everybody calls me Keg. And we're two of the best NASCAR handicappers on the planet when it comes to betting on sports. So we're going to try to make you guys money every single week. That's the goal. Thus far, we've done really, really well. For 2.5 weeks into the year, Coop hit I hit the Clash at 14-1 with Truex. Coop hit the duel at 16-1 with somebody. Oh no, 8-1
it was
with
Bowman.
Blaney.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
Bowman.
and then you had Daytona qualifying. We hit at 16-1. I know you had Austin Hill in the Xfinity series, but I didn't know the number that you got. I didn't bet that race.
6,
Okay,
6.5, something like that.
and then
We got one more too. I forget what it was.
Daytona to recap.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, that one, but we had another one too during the week. But anyways,
Yep. So we hit
Daytona.
the Daytona
Stenhouse,
500.
great call by you.
Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse 40-1. We get that home. Well, I'll be honest, Coop. I didn't watch the end of the race because for the last 4 years, we have had the leader on the final lap of the final turn at 50-1 or better, and it never goes our way ever. So I shut it off. I waited 5 minutes. I went into the Discord and I saw everybody going, Ricky Stenhouse. You're like, Stenhouse punched his ticket to the playoffs. And I was like, holy shit, we hit it. It happened. Yeah. They owe us 3 more, but
like to think about it, like, at least the two of us, when we bet Daytona, we either bet several of the long shots,
right,
or in the past we've tried to hit top threes, top fives, but on some of the longer shots too.
Right.
But they took those numbers away this year, and we couldn't, do that. So I was kind of shocked though that there wasn't more people out there on Stenhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, 40-1, on a guy who has a very good resume on Talladega and Daytona.
Yeah.
His record isn't great, but if you really look at how many times he's been in contention and then had something happen or he created something to happen, he's got a solid resume there. And, like I said, I was kind of shocked that more people weren't on it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good plate driver. As long as he can avoid the big crash, he is always going to put you in a spot where he's live and he's got a chance. And it's happened multiple times with him where he's been live on this track, and he got it done. Now, I saw a lot of controversy because everybody was like, wait a minute, it looks like Joey Logano was in front. What did they go from the previous loop?
I think on the last lap they go like right when it's dropped.
Oh, okay.
But I think to your point on all the other ones, it is the last loop. So it's kind of interesting that it happened in the same kind of scenario that happened in the Xfinity race with Austin Hill.
Overall thoughts, mine were Chevy and Ford looked really good. They looked like they had a ton of power, a lot of speed. And I thought Toyota struggled a little bit. What did you think about Daytona overall?
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. My other piece was I think in Xfinity we saw more three wide racing and less in the Cup because it seemed like once somebody either tried to make the third lane happen on the outside, they just couldn't do it.
Right.
And two, if somebody got pushed into the middle, nobody really wanted to, get with that driver and, kind of help him out or try to form that lane either. And obviously that driver would just fall way back. But, it's Daytona, it's the racing, it's the race. So, I'll never say there's a bad Daytona. It's the first race of the year. It's the granddaddy of them all. And, just the history of it.
So I think that we have, after getting burned so many times in this race because of the volatility of Daytona, I thought that we have pretty much the best strategy that you can have on a track like this. Quarter unit shots on 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 to 1 shots that you think are going to be live because they're good plate drivers. And all you have to do is hit one. I mean, we went one in 14, I think I did, and we ended up making 7 or 8 units. So I mean, yeah, you can't complain, but man, there are a lot of people on social media that were like just didn't agree. I don't know, man. a lot of people are stuck on this. In order to make a living betting on sports, you have to be at 55, 57, 58%. And that's just not true. Yeah, when you're betting coin flips at minus 110, that's true. But when the implied odds, man, you only have to hit 20 or 30% of the time. And if you can hit 40, you're crushing it at 40.
I mean, the name of the game is to make money.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways you do it. I mean, no different than, than the FanDuel bet where we had, basically 20th position, 21st position on back.
Did that hit?
Yeah. I mean,
nice.
Stenhouse started, I think, 32nd, 33rd, somewhere in that ballpark. So we got to 1,300. But, you'll hear more about it later tonight, but like combining bets and sure, we're taking down some of the total potential wins, but we're still winning. And, winning is what really matters. It doesn't matter what the overall record is. Like, we might be 1-1 in this bet, but we won it. And we won money. Right. Or like you said last week, we were 1-13 or whatever it was, and you won nice money. So you got to do some things differently, and the plus numbers allow you to do that. Whereas it doesn't allow you to do that in the majority of the other sports. And I mean, we've said it for weeks. Like NASCAR is a great way, or months, years, whatever, to build your bankroll. And I think the people that have followed us have learned that and are thankful for it.
Yeah, I continue to say it is although they are trying to tighten it up as best they can, it is still the softest market in sports betting, period, full stop. It's impossible to argue. So now go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, like, there's not a lot of money bet on NASCAR, compared to other sports. But, like, the books take it on the chin, probably more often than not for that sport because of all the plus numbers that are out there.
Right.
And, they probably don't make the money from a percentage standpoint because, like I said, it's a lot smaller than what they do, with the other ones. But, it's something that they have to do to, bring people in because the community continues to grow and grow. So we'll see. I think it's not going to ever burst, but I think the next big step for it is when North Carolina and South Carolina legalize betting. And I think North Carolina is a lot closer. than what South Carolina has, because they're the two biggest markets.
So now
Yeah.
we move our attention to a forgotten super speedway, Fontana Auto Club. Now it's a 2 mile track, and the big thing here is it's all about tire wear. This track absolutely kills your tires, and the people that will succeed at this track are the people that can extend the life of a tire, right? And give me your just early thoughts. I know that they're going to change this track to a short track, right, Coop, next year.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I don't know about next year, maybe the year after.
I saw that they had put it on hold because they were
Well,
happy with
it's
what's
done.
going on in the
It's done.
Coliseum. Oh, it's done.
Yeah, they sold the land today for $500 million.
Okay. Okay.
So
All right. So I love this track, man. I've
yeah,
always loved the racing at this track. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And I'm gonna be sad to see it go. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Because don't you think tire tracks with high tire wear
they're the
specific,
best.
it's I feel like those are easier to figure who's going to be there at the end than a lot of other tracks on the circuit, because the
Yeah, it's an
car,
art. I mean,
right?
of driving and learning how to manage their tires. And there's a 1 to 2 handful of drivers that are very successful at it. And you just don't come in and do it typically. It takes years for them to do it. So yeah, that's been one of the two big topics this week. Is there's a lot of people out there that are not happy that this will be the last year on the 2 mile surface at Fontana.
Yeah, it's sad, but I mean, it is what it is. I love short track racing, so if we get a good short track out of it, I guess we'll take it.
Yeah.
I could do without the Bristol dirt race. I'll tell you that. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the big debate this week approaching this race was, how do you handicap it? Everybody knows that this car is brand new. It's only 1 year old. It's basically a baby. So the data from last year is great, but a lot of teams, found something in the offseason to make them better. And some teams are going to fall back to the field that were really, really good. That's just how it goes in this sport, right? So
Yeah.
what you have to figure out is, how much do you rate last year's data, and how much do you rate the drivers and teams that are usually good on the comparable tracks, high tire wear tracks like Michigan, like
Not Michigan.
Homestead and Darlington, right?
Yeah, not Michigan.
Right. So I think that we both agreed that we basically went with pedigree and the drivers that we thought are really good at this. Drivers like who's good tire wear cars drivers: Marty, Happy, Kyle Busch, Logano, Kyle Larson, and Will Byron. They're young, but they're good, man. They're really, really solid. So when you evaluated this race, right, what else did you take into consideration besides what I just brought up?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Looking at data from this particular race last year is really tough to do because it was the first real so-called race that they had with this new car. And we learned within 5 minutes of practice for what was to be seen throughout the entire season up until the end on tracks that were like oval of shape and 1.33 miles or larger, because they started having tire issues in the first 5 minutes of practice.
Right.
And they were spinning out, so on and so forth, and it carried over to the race. So, is that been fixed, or is it still an issue? Part of me wants to believe it's been fixed, but because we saw some mile-and-a-half tracks where the tires had issues predominantly last year, at the end of last season, have good result without having failures and things of that matter. But then on my other hand, I'm thinking, well, the playoffs were determined in them races. And we all know that one of the biggest issues with the tires was the teams pushing the tire pressures and making them low. And, they're trying to get every inch they possibly can to get a victory and so on and so forth. And we saw that a lot at the beginning of last year. Is that going to come back up again? And will we see the same thing? So it really comes down to how are these tires going to perform and how are the drivers going to let the tires perform?
It goes back to the conversation that you and I had on Monday. I said to you on Monday, the number one variable that we had last year that stopped us from making money that we didn't know that we were going to have to deal with were the tire blowouts and the motors just blowing out of nowhere, right?
Right.
And I said to you, bro, this track was an issue last year. I said, how do you handicap for that? And you were basically like, you can't, and we're going to find out if they fix the problem on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. So, if you look at prior years to last year's race at this track, you didn't see a lot of cautions, anywhere from 4 to 5, possibly 6. Last year we had 12. So, which one do we see?
Right.
Because, you talk about tire wear and this being a high tire wear track. Well, last year, this really wasn't a high tire wear track because I don't think there was more than 20 consecutive laps run. So you really didn't see the drivers who typically have an advantage on longer runs when the tires, are eaten away, take advantage of that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think you can pay much attention to the results. Because if this race last year would have been, a typical Fontana race, we wouldn't have seen that many cautions. And, Byron or Reddick, they might have just ran away. Who knows? Because they were very fast until the tires put them out.
I always like to see, it's impossible to ever truly know what the market is doing because we're not behind the curtain, but I always like to see who the people on social media gravitate towards. And I made it a point in the blog to say that I wrote this week was, don't get trapped by last year's performances because I see a lot of people on Jones, Almirola, Suarez, and Austin Dillon this year. Why? Because they had green flag speed last year. They were fast, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be fast this year. And when you look at the odds, they are appealing 40 to 1, 50 to 1 on drivers that ran very well here last year. But that doesn't mean anything now.
Right. Right. It doesn't mean anything. And it's like I told you the other day, if I miss out on a 30 to 40 shot, but I still get it at 20 to 25, I'm not going to cry. I'm still going to be very happy.
Yeah.
Because I know my pick hasn't been wasted because I'm taking him because he has speed and he's showing, the ability to be able to win the race, hopefully at the end. Whereas a lot of these people, like you said, they're just blind betting a number.
And what for those that don't know what Coop is talking about, basically we decided those numbers are so good pre-race that we're going to have time to live bet them at very good numbers. They won't be as good as they are right now, but they will still be very good, and we will have a better understanding for how well they're running on Sunday while the race is happening. So we kind of passed on all those flyers. and we gravitated towards the
But
pedigree at this track. Go ahead.
but I thought that was your strategy, man, to take all the long shots.
Yeah. Like people don't understand. It's a super speedway, man. Yeah, I know. All right, so let's talk about the contenders. I'll bring up DraftKings right now. Kyle Larson is your odds-on favorite right now at 6.5 to 1. If you shop around, you could find 7 to 1. Chase Elliott's 8 to 1. Denny's 9 to 1. Ryan Blaney 10 to 1. Kyle 10 to 1. Byron and Reddick and Chastain 12 to 1. And then if you go down a little further, you got Joey at wow, everybody's at 12 to 1 now. You got Joey at 12 to 1, Bell at 12 to 1. Marty at 14 to 1, and Kevin Harvick at 20 to 1. Now, you and I have already made outright bets that we'll get into later, but just an overall outlook, looking at Hendrick is at the top of the leaderboard, at the top of the odds. Joe Gibbs with Denny. You got a lot of Penske with Blaney and Logano, who should run well here. We love Byron and Larson this week. They should run really well. Obviously, Kyle Busch is over at Childress now. He is not in the 18 anymore, but Tyler Reddick's car last season was phenomenal. And something that I wanted to talk to you about, Coop. I was looking at all the drivers under the age of 30. There are 12 drivers under the age of 30 that are live to win a championship at any point in the next decade. But who is the best driver in the sport right now? Because if you're just a fan since the pandemic, you don't think Kyle Busch is that good. But he's a monster. I truly believe, dollar to dollar, he's still the best talented driver in the sport. I think Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott and Joey Logano are right there, but I still tip my hat to Kyle as being the class of the field. Overall thoughts on who you think the best driver is right now, and what do you think odds wise at the top of the board?
Define driver. Like, are you talking like driver of all vehicles, or are you talking driver of a NASCAR vehicle?
Driver of a NASCAR vehicle. Well, we're talking a cup car.
Driver of a cup car. And who I think is the best
right now. Yeah. It's hard to go against Joey because he's got two.
It's going to say it's hard to go against Joey.
It's hard to go against Joey right now.
Because Joey, you said 30. Joey's only like 32, maybe 33. He's not far off of that 30.
Yeah.
He has several years to go where, he could end up winning 4 or 5, championships. So it's hard to go against Joey. But, if you're talking like driver of all vehicles, I think Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson are 1A and 1-2.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That group of 3 or 4 is basically where I'm at. So 7-1 on Kyle Larson. We both think that he's live. He can definitely win the race, but those odds are just a little short.
Yeah, they're short. But I kind of said, had the same feeling about Larson as what I do about what we talked about the back tier drivers. If I end up getting Larson at 5-1, I'm not going to complain over spilled milk. At least I know he'll have a great car. Larson wasn't the previous year's Larson on mile and a half last year. He was strong on the majority of them, but he got bitten by, bad luck from his peers or bad luck that he created himself. So, it's still a crapshoot with him. I don't think he should have been the favorite this week. So, I'll wait and see. And then the last thing I'll say about Larson is I do like him, but I think we're going to have some time with Larson. to figure it out. I think he's starting 13th, 14th, somewhere in that ballpark, assuming everything gets rained out.
Right.
This track is going to be green, and it's going to take several laps for that top line to come in.
Right.
And you know that's where Larson wants to be.
Yep.
So if he doesn't do good at the very beginning, that could be why. And the other reason why is maybe he's one of the few drivers that goes to the top immediately to try to bring it in. And one, it hurts because it's slicker up there, and two, it could hurt him, in the long run by tapping the wall or doing whatever, because it's really not ready to come in. So, that's part of the reason why I don't think we need to rush to bet Kyle Larson this week.
Now, you and I spoke a lot this week about Hendrick cars, but they were Kyle Larson and Will Byron, not Chase Elliott or Alex Bowman. Chase Elliott is your second choice at 8-1 right now at DK. Overall thoughts on him this week?
Yeah, he struggled last year on the mile and a halfs in general in this package. Obviously, Atlanta's a mile and a half, but it's a different package, which he did very well at. But, if you look at this package, he wasn't the greatest. And I know a lot of people were down on him this week. And, he could come back and bite us. But, again, assuming we're rained out, he's going to be starting like 33rd, 34th, somewhere in that ballpark. So we'll have plenty of time to jump on Chase
Right.
Elliott.
Yeah, definitely. The one race team that I struggled the most with this week was what to do with Joe Gibbs. Denny and Marty. Denny's your third choice at 9-1 at DK. Marty's like 12-1. Chris Bell and Gibbs are slightly higher odds. Gibbs definitely higher odds. I understand that a couple of these drivers are very good tire wear drivers, but I don't know. I just don't think that Marty's going to be great this week. What do you think about Gibbs?
Why do you not think Marty's going to be great this week?
I think he struggled last season early on these tracks.
Right, he did. But let's go back to what you let's rewind back. Like if you look at the beginning of last year, you mentioned all these 30-year and younger drivers. Like they really got much more comfortable with this car at a quicker rate than what I think the veterans did. And, as the season progressed, you started to see Truex, you started to see Harvick get better.
Yeah, for sure.
If you look at the results at the end of last year, Marty had solid results, much better than what he did at the beginning of the year. But he ran better than those results too because he got caught up in a couple things.
So what do you expect from Gibbs? Do you think that there'll be a couple Gibbs cars that can compete for the win with Penske and Hendrick and KB?
Yeah, and I think Marty Truex is one of them. If you look at Mark Truex, he has the second best driver rating at this racetrack over the last 5 years. He's just been bit in the back. One time he got into an accident with Stenhouse late in the race when he was up front. He's been up front in all of these races. Last year was the caution, and he had a bad restart, I believe. It's been something every year. If you look at his driver rating, second best driver rating. If you look at the end result, like he has a mid-tier result. All right. And let me ask you this question. All right. During the COVID era, we hit in on Hendrick a lot. Why did we hit in on Hendrick a lot? Because we thought they were the best cars off of the truck because they weren't having practices or anything. All right.
Right.
Who are the best two cars in your opinion this year off the truck? And I know it's a short sample. We're only talking the Clash. We're only talking Daytona.
So far, I would say Logano, maybe, and and I don't know. I would have to go back and really look at what happened at the duels and the clash.
So I think my top three, all right, and I think these three are separate from the rest of the field. I think they've separated themselves from the rest of the field. It's Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Joey Logano.
Definitely KB. I agree. So you think, yeah, I mean, all we've really had is Daytona and a quarter-mile track.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
it was off that quarter-mile track. Martin Truex was fast as crap right off the track.
Yeah,
right off the truck.
He should have won that race. I'm stunned that he got. He did win that race.
He did.
We had him at 14-1. Yeah. Yeah, but Coop, it took him a minute. He was in second. He passed that car with 28 laps to go in the race.
Yeah, but I mean, he was up there the whole race for the most part.
He was. But
and if you go back to practice, man, he dominated practice.
It's like a parking lot at that track. I don't even know how to evaluate that track.
Right, but like the thing is, all the cars were there. The same cars there this week, the same cars were there that week.
Yeah.
And how did they do? It doesn't matter what type of surface you're racing on, what distance, they were all there. He unloaded off that truck really damn good. Same with Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, who we like this week, absolutely owns this track. He's won here 4 times. He's finished in the top 5 50% of the time, finished in the top 10 70% of the time, and since 2011, he's been in the top 3 at this racetrack 70% of the time. He is an absolute stud who knows how to extend the life of a tire, and he's in a fast whip. I love him. How do you not love him this week?
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch is one of the best values on the board. I think he should be the betting favorite.
I agree.
And, to all the reasons that I've already talked about unloading, he's been good the first 2 races that we've seen him in. You talked about his top 10s. We talk about his top 5s. He's been top 5 11 times. If you really want to break it down, of those 11 times he was top 5, he finished in the top 3 10 of those times. So when he's good, he's really good here.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably the most important race of the year for Kyle Busch.
Why?
He was good at the Clash. He was good at Daytona. He should be very good here. And he's running really well right now. And these drivers, they run in streaks. Like they'll be good for 5 or 6 or 7 races in a row, and then they'll go to tracks they're not as comfortable with, or so on and so forth, or they'll just have issues. And I think he has to take it right now when he's hot, because the longer it goes for him and he doesn't get that win, especially when he's running really good, the more frustrated the guy's going to be. And then we're going to start seeing him point fingers, all right, at the team and so on and so forth. But I think, if he gets that win this weekend, he can knock it out of the park, all right, and he'll be in the playoffs for the most part, I would say. I don't think he would end up being the 17th driver, with 1 win when it comes to points. So if he gets that win this weekend, he can just race the rest of the season stress-free and do what he wants to do. Whereas if he doesn't get that win this weekend when he's running really well, that stress is still going to be there for him. And that's why I say I think this is the biggest race of the year for him. Because he could really, if he wins this week, he could really do something special, I think, because he can just go out there and run, and he can run with a good car that he has and things like that, and not, be stressed out and so on and so forth. So, I know myself, I was a little lukewarm on Kyle Busch at the beginning of the year, but he's kind of put those lukewarm pieces of mine to rest, and he's shown that he can do it, at least so far.
I think that it's a fresh start for him in a phenomenal car, and he's a phenomenal driver. He could definitely win the chip this year. No question in my mind. He could win the championship this year.
And I mean, when you look at like the results of this track, like there's Kyle Busch, and he's in a results zone all by himself. Then you have Logano. Like, I think I looked at it the other day. He has 11 of them top fives. If you take Hamlin, Harvick, and Truex, it was a combination of three great drivers. They had 11 top fives, and it took them 60-some races between the three of them. Like, he's really separated himself. And, it's just something that he knows, because Kurt Busch was really good here too. It's something that him and Kurt knew about this track.
Now, so I love him, you love him this week. Now, Ryan Blaney, also 10-1, and I'm just going to go with that whole group. Will Byron, 12-1, Tyler Reddick, 12-1, Chastain, 12-1. I believe, without question, Will Byron had one of the three best cars last year. If you look at the totality of the year, I think Will Byron was a top three car. I think Chris Bell was a top three car probably too. Would you agree with that Will Byron had a whip last year?
Oh, he had a whip. I mean, there's rumors out there that, he got a second win. He got it early in the year, and then it became a test car, the rest of the year until the playoffs began, which once the playoffs began, he was fast again. So there could be credence to that's true. But yeah, definitely. I like Will Byron this week. I know you've already bet him. I'm hanging off on betting him because.
Now, let me ask you a question. I bet him at 18-1, even though we'll get to the picks later. I'm looking around, and I think the best that I saw was 16-1. FanDuel, where I got him at 18-1, it's 10-1.
Yeah.
He's taken a lot of money, and you know what? Rightfully so. He's going to be good on Sunday.
Yeah, he is. He's going to be very good, but I have time, so I'll wait and see.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Right. Now, moving to Penske, right? You and I were feeling really good about KB and Will Byron, and we both had a Penske car. I leaned towards Joey. I thought he would run stronger on Sunday, and you leaned towards Blaney. But then you decided, you know what? Maybe Logano is the car at Penske this weekend. Penske's going to be fast. They're live too, right?
Yeah, they're live. But we talked about Logano because, like we said, or you said, I'm off of Blaney now, and it's really Logano for me. Like, we talked about maybe possibly betting him for the win, but like, we've also talked that we need to do that before the race starts,
right?
Because that number will probably go down because he's going to be starting at third position,
right?
But are we betting him for protection, or are we really betting him because we think he's going to win?
I really think he could win, Coop. I think he could win. I think he's going to run well here.
So, if he was starting 14th, would you be betting him?
Yeah, I would. You know why? Because they're going to have the good cars get to the front. I think he's going to be able to get to the front. And if you go through his numbers, I mean, he was pretty good. Auto Club's been a very good track for him. He's consistently been solid. He's finished between second and seventh 6 out of the last 7 races at Auto Club. I think he's going to be there. And he's another one of those drivers that you can count on to extend the life of a tire. And Penske is fast. They are.
Because, like, if you really look at those results that you pulled off, he has a lot of 3rd, 4th, 5th place finishes. I think he
Sure.
has 7 top 5s.
But you know what, Coop?
Do you really think he can win?
All you and I can, when we're betting outrights, right? We're hoping, we're betting them because we think that they can win the race. But at the end of the day, if you know that they're a top 3 or top 5 car, they're live to be there at the end because of the madness that ensues on a NASCAR racetrack. So yeah, and what do you say 20 times a year on the live show? Joey Logano hasn't been up there all day. He always finds a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's live. I think if I was picking one Penske car to win this race this weekend, it would be Joey Logano. Yeah.
I know your answer to this question, but like if we're betting Logano at 12-1, like, don't you think Martin Truex at 14-1 is a better number? I mean, obviously it's a better number, but like a better. I think he has more of a chance to win Logano.
Do you? You do?
Yeah. Like Marty has been in that top 5 the last 5 races. He's just had bad luck. And I mean,
Yeah.
when you think of Marty in his prime, what do you think of? Mile and a half Marty.
Yeah.
And with what he showed us, and then like the other thing that people really aren't talking a lot about is he's got that number 18 pit crew this year.
That's true. That's fair. That's a fair. They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
So
I'm gonna defer towards you and lean towards you because I really don't know what to think about him. He's always good here, so I don't know why you're right. He's probably going to be very good here again.
like
I would put him in the same. You think that he's got more of a chance to win, or the same amount of a chance to win?
Well, let me. This is what really opened my eyes to it. All right, pull up DK Sportsbook.
All right, I got it.
Look at their driver props, head-to-head matchups.
He's a 10-cent favorite over Joey.
Yeah. Now there's a couple other books that have that same matchup, and they're even, like 115s. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm not discounting Joey Logano whatsoever, but as the week has progressed, I've become a bigger Marty fan than Joey.
Every time you're a Marty fan, he finds the winner's circle, bro.
So, like, I don't know, man. Like, something's telling me, Marty.
Wow, Kyle Busch is a coin flip this week, heads up against Chris Bell, huh?
Yeah, I had that listed down too, man. Like, I know we never bet negative numbers, but like, you know, the thing that keeps telling me is, hey, we got to remember this isn't Chris Bell. This is a different Chris Bell. You know, this is a much improved Chris Bell.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that bet's intriguing. I doubt I pull it, but I could see why people would pull it.
So rounding that out, we didn't touch on Tyler Reddick, and we didn't. Oh, go ahead. Good.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Tyler Reddick's 12-1. Obviously, he's not in the 8 car anymore. He's driving for Denny Hamlin's team, 23XI. Now, Ross Chastain also 12-1. Trackhouse was the surprise of last year. They were absolutely phenomenal. Ross and Suarez were good. They were good here, at least speed wise. What do you expect from Trackhouse this weekend?
Well, back to Reddick real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to have time on Reddick because he's starting in the rear. And then I mentioned earlier, you know, the track's going to be green. It's going to take a long time for that top line to come in. So Reddick is another one of them drivers that could, you know, so to say, struggle at the beginning of the race. So I think we'll have plenty of time on Tyler Reddick. You know, Ross Chastain, The two drivers, when we were talking groups this week, that I told you I wanted to avoid being up against was Martin Truex and Ross Chastain. If you look at Ross's numbers from last year on these high tire wear tracks, he was a top 5 driver, and he did very good on them. So, do I see something where Trackhouse could fall and not be as good as last year? Sure. But, I don't know what to think of Ross Chastain right now, because, we saw 2 different drivers last year. We saw Ross Chastain at the beginning of the year, who was very aggressive, and, it hurt him in a sense, because he started getting a lot of, bad publicity, so on and so forth for it. And he backed off, and his results weren't the same. And then at the end of the year, obviously, we saw what Ross could do again when he's aggressive at Martinsville, with the move that he made. So which Ross do we see? That's my concern with Ross.
Yeah.
But, I do know that, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if Ross Chastain comes out here and, does very good. Very good.
Yeah. Like we talked about last year's results don't necessarily mean anything this season, but Trackhouse was very good last year.
Right. But I think there's some other, they're a 2-car team. And if we keep talking about 2-car teams, would it surprise me if Richard Childress is better than Trackhouse this year? No. Would it surprise me if Legacy Motorsports, makes a big jump? I don't know if they're going to be able to be as good as what Trackhouse was last year, but if they make a nice jump. Same with RFK. Could they make that jump?
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
One note about Tyler Reddick. Now, obviously, he had a phenomenal car last year. Now Kyle Busch is in that car. But people forget how good Kurt Busch's car was last year. It's really unfortunate. It's unfortunate what happened to Kurt Busch and the concussion. I still don't know what's going on with that. Is he retiring, or is he coming back?
No, he's hoping to come back.
But that
I don't think he's going to race full time anymore.
That 45 car that Reddick is going to be in this year was a monster last year. It was really good.
Definitely. And, to that point, while we're talking about it, it was one of the reasons why I was lukewarm on Kyle Busch this year, because next to Kyle Busch, we know he had a lot of incidents last year with his car. That number 8 car of Tyler Reddick probably was not far behind Kyle Busch when it comes to, engine issues or tire issues or things of that nature.
Yeah, definitely. All right. We've already now just looking quickly at. Oh, go ahead. You want to say something?
Are you moving off of the wins?
I was going to look at just the long shots. Just talk about them for a sec.
Alex Bowman. We haven't talked a lot about him.
Yeah, 24-1. He's the only driver that I think we both bet to win the championship at 30-1 because the equipment is so good. Another driver that found a way to be up front at the end of races.
Right, but again, if you go back to what I was saying, and this driver, I would probably say would be number 4. If you look at cars that have unloaded this year, he was really good at the Clash. And then we know what happened at Daytona when he unloaded. So, I don't know. That would just more be a number bet for me. and it probably wouldn't be a full unit, but I don't know. He's going to be starting up front. Like, if we want to bet Alex Bowman, we have to bet him now because I'm sure that 20 is going to go down to 15 or 16.
I saw 24-1, I think, earlier in the week on him.
Yeah, I looked before. I can't find a 24 now. The best I can find was, hold on. I think 22 at 365, and then everybody else was 20.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue because the kid's a good driver and that car's good, and he finds a way to be there at the end all the time, even when he doesn't have the car, too,
Mm-hmm.
which is, impressive. Another driver that's 20-1, my guy, Kevin Harvick. Listen, for all the shit you talked about Kevin Harvick at the last half of the year, he had one of the three best cars on the racetrack every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My guy happy. The retirement tour. One more time around the block. Let's go. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll have some happy this year. I mean, last year, he was in the grave. We had to dig him out. He did well for us. Marty was almost in the grave. I will say I'm much higher on the two of them heading into this year than I have the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think he can make those Stewart Haas cars are very good, man. So
they are like
they are. Yeah.
there was time last year that I was thinking, is Tony Stewart really into NASCAR? Like, is he really, really wanting to build this team? Because it was almost like they were taking a step back. And, I think in my mind, they've come full circle. And I don't know if it's just that they've added Ryan Preece or if there's other things to it or what, but I think they're a much better team from top to bottom this year.
If you take a look at that team now, right? You got Happy, who is on his way out, but still phenomenal. Chase Briscoe had a hell of a year last year, and dropping Cole Custer and bringing in Ryan Preece to drive in that 41 is big. Ryan Preece is good.
Mm-hmm.
He's a solid driver. I agree with you. I think they're an underrated team. Definitely. Definitely.
So I like it. It makes the racing much more competitive. It also helps with the top Ford bets too, because it was basically Logano and Blaney, at a big odds difference than everybody else last year.
Right. Finally, we didn't talk about, obviously everybody likes Jones, Dillon, Suarez, and Almirola. They're all in that 40-50-1 range. We already talked about what we're going to do live there. We didn't talk about Bubba. What do you think about Bubba this week?
I think Bubba's going to do better than what people expect out of him this week, because I've said this in the past too. The rap on Bubba has always been, he isn't very good on road courses, and he's not very good on high tire wear tracks. I think, he made improvements on both of those last year. He's still not in a category that I think would put him in the upper echelon of drivers when it comes to those two styles that I just mentioned. But I think he's going to do a little bit better than what I think. I'm not going to, I don't think he's a winner this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 10. Also, wouldn't be surprised if he finishes right around where he starts.
Yeah, I agree. All right, looking at the other betting markets. Now, ordinarily, we don't really look at top 3 or top 5 all that much because we've been priced out of this top 3, top 5, top 10 market. But I almost fell off my chair when I saw you had a top 3 and a top 5 bet.
Yeah. Kyle Busch, man. I think those are really good numbers. And like a plus 190 at Barstool for a top 5, I think is, I already told you I thought he should be the betting favorite. And I think Larson was like a minus 110 top 5, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
So I look at that value on it, And I think when he's good here, he's really good. And like I said, he's got 10 out of 11 top three. So I'm going to take a shot at the top three. Hey, he's going to bring the whole kit and caboodle home for us, I believe.
I agree with you. I think Kyle should be the betting favorite, and then I think it's that, like, I would put Byron Logano and Kyle Larson in somewhere behind him. But I agree. I think he should be the betting favorite.
I think Larson's right behind Kyle Busch because, like, if you look at Larson's career stats here, he's on a uh, pedigree, same type of chart of what Kyle Busch is here. He's finished in the top five, I think, half of his races, 4 out of 8.
One of our guys in the live chat says Kyle Busch owes us from last year. Yeah, he let us down last year big time. But I think he's going to bounce back big, man. He had a lot of bad luck last year. A lot of bad luck.
I the only other top 5 I was considering is Joey Logano. I think it's like 2, maybe and a quarter that you can get him for, somewhere in that ballpark.
That's not bad.
And then, part of me was like, I think we've got to look at doing these top 5s maybe this year if we feel really good about certain drivers. And then it also depends upon the track too. Maybe we take a shot at 3 of them and hope that 2 hit and, we make a little bit of money on them. Like if I had to take 3 this week, it would be Logano, Busch, and Byron from a numbers perspective and who I think is going to get there. But then you also got to remember, the more people you bet in that, you're not just betting top 5, then you're betting top 4, you're betting top 3s.
Right.
Because there's no ties. I mean,
right.
You got to get there.
Yeah, looking at, I agree. I guess I don't mind it on Kyle because I think he's going to be great. Other than that, I don't see anything in the top 3 or top 5 market that I would feel comfortable telling somebody to bet.
Correct.
Okay, now we never bet top 10s, but
Coop we used to bet them a lot, man.
Yeah, but the numbers have changed so much over the last couple of years.
When you hit 8 consecutive weeks of Willie B at plus 200,
I know. So Coop sends me a message and says, "Look at FanDuel right now," and I looked at FanDuel and they just had the wrong lines up, bad numbers. The top 10 market on FanDuel was exploitable, definitely this week, and we exploited it after Coop brought it up. Now, are the numbers still there, Coop, that we got?
Yeah, well, they were before we started. I don't know if they are now, but I would assume. I don't know if they're just trying to draw people in, or because there's been a lot of talk within the Twitter NASCAR community this week of how bad the top 10 pricing is. And like you said, I don't know if we bet a whole top 10 last year because the numbers are so bad.
Right.
And, this was a case where like the numbers were so good on so many drivers that like, I think if we just picked 1 or 2 drivers, we would just be taking a random chance and hoping, that hit. So by us taking 7 or 8 drivers, the hopes is, 2 get home, we make a little bit of money. 3 get home, we're really good. 4 gets home, we're really banging it.
Yeah, I like the call. I thought it was the right call. I agreed with you. So what we did, Hoop and I took 7 top 10s and he took 8. Now I know that sounds crazy, but we did not bet a lot of money on it. It was like a unit and a half total risk between all 7 or 8 drivers. So it's like making one bet basically. So we took Briscoe at plus 200. These are all available at FanDuel.
Yeah, they're still available.
Austin Dillon at plus 230. Brad Keselowski at plus 250. Daniel Suarez at plus 270. Eric Almirola at plus 300. Buescher at plus 390. And Austin Cindric, I love this play. Austin Cindric plus 550 in a Penske whip to hit the top 10. That's a really, really good price, man.
Yeah. And then I took Gregson at 430, and I couldn't hold out on him because he's the reason I actually looked at this today, because for probably the last 6-7 weeks, and I've been targeting Noah Gregson top 10 at this track and wanting to get a good number on it. And I think at the very beginning of the week, before the top 10s are out, I said 200. And the reason why is like where Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick did well at, Noah Gregson did too in Xfinity. So, that's why I'm doing it. I couldn't leave Gregson out, man, because he's the one that brought me down to this to look at it. And then number 430, I think Cindric should be at 430 and Gregson should be 550. I don't even think Cindric should be 430, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So I basically threw about a quarter unit on each of those drivers. And if it goes down, basically you only have to hit one or two to break even. Maybe one even. If you can get Austin Cindric home,
right,
you're basically you're even, right, and you're free rolling. So I like that bet. I thought it was a good call.
And I mean, basically, it's how we bet this week. You take all the long shots, man. Your buddy would be happy for you. You're giving out great advice, taking all the long shots.
Dr. Digglesworth would be thrilled about this bet. All right, looking at the matchups, which I normally fly right by because the numbers are awful. But I think we might have to bet Kyle Busch over Chris Bell. I think we might have to bet that. I only have 9 units of exposure on the spreadsheet right now, and I might have to bet that.
Well, you got a lot of Busch. All right. So the question is, do you put more Busch in there? But then on the other part of this, he only has to beat one driver. So that could be the saving of you for Busch if he doesn't do what we expect him to do.
Right.
So, I know how we feel about minus 110s. I mean, minus numbers in general. But like I said, the only reason that I haven't and won't maybe is because Chris Bell's a new Chris Bell.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, I had 2 matchups written down, and that's this one and then the one we already talked about, Truex and Logano. And I had no interest in betting, and I just wanted to bring up that, Truex is right there with Logano when it comes to head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, looking at the rest of these numbers, I don't see anything I like. Denny and Elliott, Bubba and Suarez, Gibbs and Noah, Byron and Bowman, and then Chastain and Reddick. I don't like any of those at minus numbers. You know what I just noticed that I don't see at DraftKings? Where are the weekly specials?
DraftKings is giving up, man. On
they're tapping out. Sure. They're tapping out in NASCAR.
Yeah, we can talk about that later, but yeah, they are. They're done with NASCAR.
Unbelievable. All right, so looking at the groups, which Coop and I always, that's one of the.
But really, hold on, when we look at trying, I know specifically, I've never bet more than a handful of minus numbers in my 2 years of betting.
Yeah.
And I know one of them was a Kevin Harvick against Alex Bowman. I don't remember what track it was, but Kevin had beaten him 10 years in a row or 8 years in a row or whatever it was. It was a huge number, and he had phenomenal statistics. And that's kind of how this Bell plays out with Busch, because Kyle Busch has phenomenal statistics here. Chris Bell, he's only raced here a couple times, and he hasn't fared well. So, we'll talk about it later. I don't know. We'll see how things go.
So one thing, I only have 4 sports books up on my computer right now while we do the show. But one thing that I'm noticing are I don't even see top manufacturer at Bet365, at
Right.
DraftKings, or at FanDuel. Well, FanDuel never does it, but I mean, yeah, there are a lot of numbers that are missing.
Yeah. I mean, it's what it is right now at this time of year for NASCAR. At this year of 2023, it's been a lot of talk on Twitter
Yeah.
about the bets that are out there or lack of bets or whatever. But like, it is what it is, and you can either sit there and cry over it, or you can do what you and I are doing, and you can try to find edges that we think that are out there that are exploitable still, and try to take advantage of it, and be in the game. I'm not going to sit there and cry. It is what it is.
Yeah, what guys in the chat, I don't mean race win manufacturer like Ford, Chevy, Toyota. I'm talking about top Ford, top
Yeah.
Chevy, top Toyota. Those numbers,
Yeah.
it's a bear cupboard right now in the betting market.
So there is top manufacturer. I think you can get it at Caesars, and you can get it at MGM.
Okay.
And I was floored when I pulled up MGM's numbers, because MGM is usually a tighter book, and I had to place a bet.
Oh, I got to hold on, bro. Hold up. Let me get BetMGM up. Log into this account. BetMGM was dead to us last year.
Yeah. And they still don't have a lot of offerings out there, but this just happened to be a random bet I came across that I liked a lot.
All right. Well, let me start with the groups while I pull that up. So one of the markets that Coop and I do attack in NASCAR, aside from the outright market, are the groups, because it's only usually 4 drivers, and you can take 2 out of the 4, and you could still bank profit, scraping more than a unit. And it's worked out for us. It's been one of the best markets for us the last few years. Now, Coop actually has a sports book that I don't have. Betfred. There is no Betfred in New Jersey. I checked, and so Coop's groups came from Betfred. Mine came from Bet365. Yeah,
Betfred is available, I think, in like 9 or 10 states. So New Jersey just hasn't happened to be one of them.
I'm happy to see Freddie doing well.
So, but hey, you were just talking a couple minutes ago about the lack of bets and so on and so forth that are out there.
Yeah.
So one of my goals this year, I've talked in the past, I'm a very loyal person. And, I had 3 books last year: MGM, FanDuel, and DK. And, one of my goals was to expand books. And I went out and done that.
Nice.
And, part of that reasoning is because of what we're seeing in NASCAR. So now I have 8.
That a boy, Coop. Now we're in the game. So, now, I've been trying to tell you this for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 365, wasn't an option last year.
Right.
And it came to me, so that was great. Betfred wasn't an option. That was great.
You have PointsBet out there?
Yeah, I got PointsBet. That's where I got my 12 on Kyle Busch.
That a boy.
Have you looked at his number now?
I saw 9.5 to 1 somewhere.
9.
Yeah.
On PointsBet. Yeah. 9 on PointsBet.
Yeah, I knew. We got the best of all the numbers that we bet. So, looking at the groups, why don't you talk through your groups and what you bet?
So we went through and we talked about a lot of different group bets. It started out with you. Obviously, we wanted Busch, and then Logano and Byron were the 3 that we were targeting. And then, as the week went along, we threw out all those, and I said, look, I don't want to bet against Martin Truex. I don't want to bet against Ross Chastain. So I came across Betfred. And, I saw two bets that I really liked in groups. And the numbers I think are comparable to what you got. I got Logano at 250 and Byron at 280 over Reddick and Harvick.
And what group number? What group is that?
I don't know. They just have groups. I don't
Okay.
know if they even have numbers, letters, or identifications.
Okay.
But it's Logano and Byron over Reddick and Harvick, 250 and 280. And then the other one intrigued me because it's the only one out there. Maybe there's another one. I don't know. There's so many. I mean, keeping up with 8 books is no easy deal, man.
Try
Shit.
15, bro.
Shit. But I got Kyle Larson at 240 and Kyle Busch at 280 over Denny and Christopher Bell.
Okay.
The two best drivers out there, I think, or 240 and 280. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So my groups are at Bet365. I looked around and I tried to find like some kind of balance between the best numbers and the weakest fields, but a lot of them that I saw were relatively close to the same. So I took Kyle Larson in Group A at plus 250, and I took Ryan Blaney at 3-1 over Elliott and Hamlin. That's what I did there. In Group B, I took Kyle Busch at plus 260, and I took Chastain at plus 275 over Chris Bell and Tyler Reddick. And then I couldn't avoid Marty, unfortunately. In Group C, I took Logano and Byron over Harvick and Marty, which scares me a little bit. But I have confidence in Logano and Byron. I think they're going to run well on Sunday. But that's the group that scares me slightly.
Yeah. Iowa says that Betfred is not good. Could you elaborate more on that? And then the other thing that you and I talked about was my dear friend, favorite bet book, Caesars. Their groups, they have 6 drivers in them.
Yeah, we talked about that, right? What do you think?
Obviously, the numbers are better, but it's obviously harder to win.
Yep.
So, we talked about it would be a 3 versus 3 versus a 2 versus 2. So it's something, that we're looking into. And, I told, Jay, we just don't bet it to bet it. We got to make sure we have the right numbers and the right drivers and so on and so forth. So, Group A really intrigues me now.
Betfred?
No, Caesars.
What is it?
It's Kyle Larson, 225, Denny Hamlin, 420, Chase Elliott, 450, Kyle Busch, 500, Marty, 500, Ryan Blaney, 500.
I would probably take the 3 drivers at 5-1 if I was going to bet it.
And hope that Kyle Larson doesn't beat you.
Right.
So you either take the 3, all right, at the 5, or you take 2 of the 3 at the 5, and then add Kyle Larson and hope he doesn't win it. And if it does win it, you get a little bit of profit.
Right.
But what intrigues me is the 500 number on Kyle Busch and Marty Truex.
Now, all right. So those were the groups we were.
And then the other point I want to make out of this.
Yeah.
All right. Kyle Busch is plus 500. Martin Truex is plus 500. They're both the same number.
Yeah, well, the books shit the bed sometimes, Coop. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to bring you in on Marty, man.
Anytime you say he's going to run well, he crushes, bro. So it's scaring me a little bit. I'm not going to lie about it. It makes me nervous. Talk to me about the bet on BetMGM that you like.
You haven't figured it out.
I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
It's a top manufacturer bet, man.
Oh, it's a top. Oh, what is it? Kyle Busch?
No.
at plus 470. Oh, it's got to be Ty Gibbs at 22-1.
That was my initial thought. So if they're going to hang plus 2,200 or higher on Ty Gibbs this year,
You're going to take it?
it's going to be a auto bet like Bubba Wallace at certain tracks. I don't think this is a track because I think there's a driver within that group who I just can't bet against.
Marty?
Plus 350.
Yeah. He's got
That's
to
a good number.
What's he got to be? 5 cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at Caesars is the only other book that I found top manufacturer on. Marty's 225.
So did you pull the trigger on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Truex is going to sink me on Sunday. I could see it already.
Yeah. I have Marty plus 350 to be the top Toyota. Like, don't you think that's a good number?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. No more Kyle Busch being there. Yeah,
he's the number 4 ranked Toyota.
I think that's wrong. Yeah, I think that's.
And
wrong.
if you look at the 2 races that we've had so far this year, he should be first or second.
Yeah, he should be based on the track. He should probably be the favorite.
Right, but I'm telling you, if they start keeping Ty Gibbs at plus 2,200, we're going to be hitting some Ty Gibbs this year at certain tracks.
That's fair. I'm a big fan of that system. We got 100-1 shot home last year on it, so
and a 75.
Yeah, we're never going to see that again, ever.
Because they screwed up. So, but yeah, man, yeah. So you want to talk about that Caesars bet later on?
Yeah.
We got to talk about Busch against Bell later on. And then I guess we got to figure out what we're going to do with the win. If you're going to add a third driver, if I'm going to add a second driver.
So are we in a spot right now where it looks like practice and qualifying will be rained out?
Yeah, I would bet. I would bet Iowa's bankroll. I feel that comfortable.
Wow. Yeah, so then I'm probably going to hit Logano, yeah. I'm not going to hit Marty, but now I got to look at him at the beginning of the race and see what's going on. And if I have to get on it, I have to get on it. All right, so let's recap our bets real quick and go through everything that we're actually on. So the first thing that we'll go through are the top 10 bets at FanDuel that I bet for a quarter unit each. Chase Briscoe at 2-1. Austin Dillon plus 230. Keselowski at 2.5-1. Suarez plus 270. Almirola at 3-1. Buescher plus 390. Austin Cindric plus 550. And Coop added Gragson at plus 4. What was it?
450.
Okay, at plus 450. So that's that about a unit and a half risk total. And then at my group bets, Group A, Larson at 2.5-1 and Blaney at 3-1. Group B, Busch at plus 260 and Chastain at plus 275. And C, Byron plus 275 and Logano plus 250. All for 3/4 of a unit each. So we'll scrape over a unit as long as we get that bet home. Outright winners right now. I'm on Will Byron at 18-1, and I'm on Kyle Busch at 12-1. I do have on the spreadsheet that if practice and qualifying is canceled, I will bet Joey Logano at 12-1. Now, Coop, just run through those Betfred bets one more time.
Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch at 240 and 280 over Denny and Chris Bell. Joey Logano 250, Will Byron 280 over Tyler Reddick and Kevin Harvick.
Okay, and Coop's on Kyle Busch at 12-1 also. and he may add another driver outright before it starts.
And then I put the top 5 plus 190 and top 3 plus 300 both at Barstool.
All right.
On Kyle Busch.
So that's it, boys. The plan is we're going to have an audio format of this on Spotify, on Apple, on, all the huge platforms. I'll rip it after the show. And then Coop and I are going to plan to do these shows on Friday night. Sometimes they'll be Saturday afternoon early if we have family stuff going on. But we're back. We didn't want to do it for the Clash, and we didn't want to do it for Daytona. But we are back, and hopefully we take it to the bank. So for my guy, Reed Cooper, for myself, we'll see you guys next week. Later.